Hey guys, welcome back to RIPP Superchargers, and today we're doing some fun stuff. It is February here in New York, and that means it's cold. Now, those of you in the warmer states, enjoy. But those of us in the northern states, we are dealing with some weather. It's gray, it's cloudy, it snows, there's ice, there's slush. We don't have it that bad. As you get a little bit, closer to the middle of the country and in Canada and, in the northern territories, they start to go, into those sub-zero chills that are very, very cold, and therefore it's hard on your mechanics. Now, what do you do in those cold weather states? You deal with it, right? You dress warmly and you turn on your heat, you build a fire and you get warm. But those of you dealing with mechanical products out in those colds know that you have to go through a certain a ritual to keep your mechanics sound, right? Now, maintenance, since the dawn of time on anything mechanical, is important, and therefore, as you're doing your oil changes on your Vortech Supercharger, which is the center of every RIPP Supercharger kit, it's important to keep the vehicle lubricated, but it's important to keep it at a constant operating temperature. So in this particular segment, we're talking about maintenance in cold weather and products that we are developing to help our cold weather clients. Now, Jeeps, as you know, can go anywhere. Those of you with cars probably put your cars away. We have this conversation quite a bit. Hey, I'll be putting my car away for the winter and driving my beater, whether it's a pickup or not. But those of us with Jeeps, we go Jeeping. Our Jeep is a year-round product, right? It can go on the beach or it can go into the mountain, and definitely can go in snow. So in this particular case, you may be falling into a ritual of plugging your vehicle in, which is your engine block warmer. And what that'll do is it'll keep your engine at a temperature that is more compliant to those cold weather startups, right? So when you come in the morning, you start your vehicle up, the vehicle's engine block has been kept warmer than the ambient temperature outside automatically, and this really only requires the end user to plug the vehicle into an outlet, an extension cord, so be it, and not really worry about anything else. Well, we love that ease and we love that simplicity, and we are here, some minimalists at RIPP Superchargers as well. So we wanted to develop a product that was just as easy to do as it is with the OEM with our products, so that those of you in those colder states can sort of rest easy and go through one motion. So what we actually did is hunt down some of the manufacturers of these engine block warmers that are, there's a few of them, and we found one that was willing to work with us and work with a product that we had been dreaming up for quite some time, and that was over 2 years ago, and we actually did 2 solid years of testing on this product. So, we're pretty thorough when it comes to this product. We don't want to create a problem or create any problems, so in this particular case, we wanted to make it as easy as it would be as an OEM. So in front of me here is a very simple looking product. It looks like an extension cord really, but you could see what it is here is an element. So this heater, basically this heater, supercharger heater at this point, will go into the supercharger, and I'll demonstrate how that will work. But the real star of the show is how it works, right? So if you look at the other end here, what we have is a plug, right, that can plug into an outlet or an extension cord, and then you can plug your original OEM engine block plug, right, the 120 plug here, 110 plug, right into this. Therefore, you don't have to have any extended or extensions or any other concerns in the car. You don't have 2 extension cords. That's basically it, and that's the end of the story. It's a very simple, well thought out, outlet plug here. So the star of the show at RIPP Superchargers is always the Vortech V3, and how these 2 components come together is actually the V3, as you know, is a self-contained supercharger, which means it doesn't need any lubrication from the engine or any outside components to keep the mechanics of the inside of the supercharger lubricated. So the Supercharger Warmer, which is what we're calling it these days, is actually a component that plugs into the bottom of the supercharger itself and warms the actual lubricants that are inside. And how it does that is actually quite simple. I've got some demos here to show you. So the front of the supercharger is beautiful. You've got the volute, you've got your impella, you spin it, the magic happens, and all the nice things happen to your engine. But the back is where everything is contained, self-contained in the mechanics of it, right? As you're spinning this, there's a couple of gears in here that are, precisely machined to run together, and in the bottom here, there's actually a valley, and I've got a breakaway here to show you guys, right, how this all comes together. Essentially, the 2 sides of the of the system itself. There's a front and a back. In here you would see some gears and you would see an oil slinger. And this is actually it's called the valley, but it's the oil pan essentially. And the 4 ounces of oil actually sit in here. Now in different RIPP supercharger kits and different Vortech powered kits, out there, the case can sit in different ways, right? So if you're in a Jeep, for example, in your vehicle, this case might be sitting like this and you'd have an oil line, right there, and that's where you do your draining, right? You drain the oil when you're changing the oil in your V3 supercharger, which you should be doing, right? Because you have to remember to do that. Now what we're doing is actually removing one of these freeze-out plugs that you would not be using, right? Or these plugs rather, you wouldn't be using with this 8mm Allen key, and we are actually installing the heater element right into the oil itself. Now, the technology behind this is actually quite nice, right? What we're doing is we're heating this unit up so that when you cold crank it, the oil is ready to be slung up and basically lube everything in there properly. Because again, in those very cold climates, and we're talking sub-zero climates, when you cold start a vehicle, you could have an issue with your lubricants being gelatinous or just not ready to be pumped through the system. And this is going to give you a fighting chance to make sure that your component, which is actually very expensive, right, your supercharger, is going to be lubed properly. Now this is set to a predetermined temperature and basically will always keep the fluids within the manufacturer's spec. You don't have to worry about that. But there are some really nice things that you need to look at. It's heavily wound. It has really, really thick, like an OE, like you would find under the hood of any car that has a built-in block warmer. But there's some smart thinking here on our part. You can see it has both a female and a male end, which means that you don't have to run multiple extension cords through your engine bay. That becomes really annoying, right? You can only run that one out of the garage or the side of the house. Plug your car's block warmer, engine block warmer right here. Plug this into the, into the extension and really just walk away from the car. So it's a one-step process at this point. Installation is really, really easy. Essentially, like I showed you, you take that block off with this 8mm, Allen key here. You are then installing the unit itself, just putting a little bit of sealer. So this is sort of, Loctite stuff that we use, but a thread sealer so you don't seep any oil through there and potentially damage your supercharger, by creating a leak here. You don't want to create any leaks, okay? And then you're just going to need an 18mm wrench to just tighten it in place, and you're really done. You just route this away from the belts naturally and just zip tie it away and make it so that it's handy when you have to get it and plug it in rather. You're going under the hood there. So there's two sides to this as well. Some of the vehicles are a lot easier to install when they are off the vehicle, so we would probably suggest doing like a tune-up. So you might want to do like a fresh belt, take the supercharger off, and then naturally just put it back on. Do your installation here, and then put it back on, and route yourself around. Doing it in the vehicle becomes a little bit difficult because sometimes you have to move these wrenches around, and in these tighter quarters you might not be able to do that. So it suggests that you do it that way. Well, at this point, there's really not much thinking on your part. Essentially, if you are in a cold part of the country or the world for that matter, and you're worried about your supercharger, you should be installing this. Our threshold is 25 degrees and lower. You should be thinking about this at an extended period of times. If we did not cover something in this video and you have some questions, please just write it below. We're very engaged with our clients. You can find us on www.ripmods.com or on Facebook or on Instagram. We're there for you. Thanks for stopping by. See you next time.